welcome back to Exploit Security. I am your host Scott Anderson, and today we're going to be doing a dive into some more Capture the Flag challenges. Now what I really like about Capture the Flag is it helps build upon those required skills and that critical thinking pattern needed to be successful as a penetration tester and just as a cybersecurity professional in general. So if you do like the content, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. Hey, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to Exploit Security. I am your host, Scott, and today we're going to be jumping back into OverTheWire Natas. So we're going to be picking up where we left off last week, which is Natas level 5. So before we jump into it, I do want to do a quick announcement. This is a solution-based video, which means that you will see the solution and the flag at the end of the video. So if you have not tried already, I strongly encourage you to give a shot on solving it on your own. But if you're just at the point where you're absolutely stuck, you can't get past the level, you are in the perfect spot. We're going to go ahead and just dive right into it, and we're going to make our way through. So without further ado, let's get started. So right off the bat, on the page, I have access disallowed. You are not logged in. So like I always recommend, let's start just poking around a little bit, see what we can kind of start to uncover. So of course we can view that page source. In this case, there's really not a whole lot going on from the looks of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and close out that tab. We can use the developer tool by right-clicking and hitting that inspect. I like to jump over to the network. I hit that reload just so I can view those requests going through. We're going to select this top one. That's where it's pointing at currently. That's what you can see displayed on the web page. You can see that by indicator and type. It's pointing at document and HTML with the file. So right off the bat, we can take a look at the response headers. We can look at those request headers as well. And I can see here where that cookie is. You may not be able to see it, but right there, there's something really different about that cookie. I can also hit resend. I'm going to expand that left-hand panel out a little bit. And I can see right there that it is pointing at logged in, and that value is 0, indicating we are not logged in. So in this case, we can't really edit that, but what we can do is we can select storage. And right away, you can see those different names with values, and we can see that logged in name pointing at the value 0. One thing you can do is just click in there, remove that 0 and replace it with a 1, indicating that we are logged in, and press enter. From there, you just want to refresh the page. And there you have it. There's the solution. So what I am going to do really quick, I'm going to go back. I'm going to change that value back over to 0, and I'm just going to hit enter again. And then I'm going to refresh the page once more. Then I'm going to show you what it looks like using burp. So again, I like to use Foxy Proxy for burp. It is an extension that you can find on Firefox. I'm not sure if it is on Google Chrome. Personally, I've never liked using Google Chrome too much when I'm doing CTFs. I've always just liked Firefox. I started with it. It's what I feel comfortable with. And it's kind of become like my CTF browser, if you will. So you can see here, I have the Foxy Proxy options pulled up. You can go ahead and select proxies. And you can hit add. In this case, I already have Burp Suite, so I'm just going to select that. And you can see here the host name is pointing at localhost 127.0.0.1, and it's pointing at the port 8080. So that essentially means that it is going to point all traffic over to Burp Suite. So you want to make sure you go ahead and download Burp. If you have not downloaded it already, you can download the Community Edition for free. There is some limitations compared to the Pro version, but it runs pretty well. You shouldn't need Pro for anything more if you're doing CTFs. It's perfect. Community Edition runs really, really well. So as you can see here, I do have Burp pulled up. You want to make sure you select that proxy tab, and you want to make sure your intercept is on. Essentially what this means is if your intercept's on, whenever you go to send a web request from your browser that does have Foxy Proxy enabled, it's essentially going to get caught in burp. And that means it's going to get held before it gets sent from your client over to the server. This allows you to change that request as needed, or in some cases, sometimes just review it. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that intercept on. I'm going to jump back over to Firefox. I'm going to close out that tab. And then I'm just going to refresh the page. I'll jump back over to burp. You can see that the web request was caught. You can see on line 9 that cookie value with logged in pointing at 0. So we can do the same thing we did a couple minutes ago. Just replace that 0, type in 1, and then you can just hit forward. And if you jump back over to Firefox, you can see that we now have the credential. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab that credential, go ahead and copy it out. Make sure you're taking note of these passwords, or else you're going to have to work your way through the level again. It's always a nightmare. I do it all the time and I have to work my way right back up. But I'm going to replace that 5 and drop in a 6. Natas6 is going to be the username, and then we're going to paste in that password for Natas6 and hit enter. And there you go. We are now in Natas6. So we're at about 6 minutes. I say we just kind of keep going. We'll probably finish up with 7 and then call that a close. So let's just see how long this one takes us, and we'll kind of decide from there. So right off the bat on Natas6, we have that input secret field. I'm assuming where we type in the secret or the password. We have that submit query radio, or that button. And then we also have what looks like a link, and it says view source code. So again, we can do all the standard stuff. And before I really go forward, make sure you have your intercept turned off. You can still have the Foxy proxy extension turned on. What essentially is going to happen is it's still going to push and capture all of the traffic within Burp Suite, but Burp isn't going to hold it up on the intercept, which means it will go directly to the server, right? So another time that comes in handy is you can turn off the intercept and you can go around and just click stuff on a web page, and Burp is going to capture all that. And the cool thing about it is, just to do a quick pause, it's capturing all that. So if I just hit refresh, you can see my intercept is turned off. But if I select target up at the top, you can see all of the domains I've interacted with. In this case, we're on Natas6, and you can see all of the requests that go through here up at the top. And the ones that are dark, right, the ones that look like they're in bold, that means that the request was actively sent and Burp did catch it. And you can see on this left-hand panel, you have the request and response. So even though the intercept isn't holding it up, I like to use Burp when I'm just doing my recon on a web page, so I can capture all of it and then go and review it at a later time, right? I can just click through each one and review every page I clicked on. Not really a good example for Natas, because there's not a lot of stuff to click on, but imagine if you had a page that had like menu, and on the menu it had like contact us, help, about us, log in, right? All of that stuff will be pushed through Burp Suite, and you can go in and do just a basic review of everything, and kind of maybe you'll find something. It's very handy if you're doing bug bounties, very handy if you're doing capture the flag, and the situations where Burp will come into play. So for the time being, I'm just going to jump back over to proxy. I'm going to keep the intercept off, and I'm going to jump back over to Firefox, and let's just take a look around. So again, you can do robots.txt, you can do view page source. Again, it's pointing at that view source code with the HTML file. We can do the developer tool of inspect. We can look around, same thing here. We can reload and take a look at that network information. You can see that they're using some different things here. Same thing, you can look at request headers. The same thing, slightly different view from Burp. I just like using Burp. It's a little bit cleaner. Using Burp helps my workflow more than using the developer tools, but I will sometimes use it, as you're going to see as we start to progress a little bit more. I'm just going to go ahead and close that out for now. I'm going to right click on view source code. I'm going to hit open in new tab. Right off the bat, we have HTML. You can tell because of the tags. You have the header information, you can see there, and then you have the body. typically speaking, it's within the body where you're going to find the things of most interest. And in this case, we have what looks like some code. So just kind of guessing, this looks like PHP. This just looks like shorthand for identifying it as PHP. Usually you'll see PHP written in there. I'm assuming they were just doing that to try to obscure the code type. And you can see that it looks like they're pointing at a subdirectory. And if you're looking, it's saying on a post request. Remember, on a post request, you're sending information. On a GET request, you're getting information. Really basic way of breaking it down, but you can kind of think of it like that. And they're basically saying if on the post request, when it's submitted, if you provide the correct secret, print access granted, the password is yada yada. If the password's incorrect, you get wrong secret. So you can see here form where it's pointing at it, right? So let's just jump back over there, and just for shits and giggles, excuse my language, we're just going to type in test and we'll hit submit query and see what happens. Wrong secret. So to show you guys what I was talking about with burp earlier, I'll go ahead and jump over to burp, select target, and you can now see the requests that are going through, right? So here's that request we just sent. So even though burp wasn't holding it up, since the traffic was flowing through that proxy, we're capturing it. So I can go through here and I can review responses. And there's all sorts of things we're going to jump into as we get into burp more and more. There's definitely a lot to it, but it really does improve your workflow quite a bit. Let's jump back over to Firefox. Now, you could try to do all number of things, right? You could try to do some password guessing. You'll probably be here forever unless you have a good place to start. I usually try to avoid password guessing. The other thing too is, if you're doing a lot of password guessing, that does show up in logs, right? If someone sees that you're typing in a password over and over for user admin, that's definitely going to flag a few things. So that's one of those activities you want to be careful with because it looks suspicious. Trying 1 or 2 times, right? It could be that somebody fat fingered it, but there's also just things that we build as security analysts that check for that, right? Let's say you have admin try to log in 2 times and then all of a sudden they stop and they don't try to reset their password and they don't have a successful login. That just looks suspicious as well, right? So you can queue up like SIMs and everything like that to look for information like that and kick off an alert if that happens. So you want to be very, very careful in a real world scenario. Again, make sure you are 100% legal when you're doing this stuff. I'm not teaching you guys how to do this to be black hat hackers or malicious hackers or threat actors. I'm just showing you this stuff so that you guys can succeed in the world of cybersecurity. So I'm going to jump back over to that source code. And right off the bat, this is what caught my eye. So let's just go ahead and copy that. We'll jump over here. I'm going to add that slash and I'm going to paste that in. And then we're just going to hit enter. Right off the bat, we get a white page. Now, in most scenarios, people are going to be like, oh crap, this is nothing. This was just a false flag. Let me just go and back out and then keep looking somewhere else. Remember what I told you. Every time you are looking at a web application, every time you go to a different page, you want to try to interact with that in the same way you did on the previous page. Consider your workflow as starting over, right? Certain pages are going to expose some information, whereas other pages won't. And you're getting ready to see a really perfect example on this. So I'm just going to go ahead and right click. I'm going to hit view page source. And right off the bat, you can see that it is pointing at a password and the variable name is secret. So we do know that on the login page of Natas 6, it was pointing at input secret. So we're just going to copy that and then paste it in, and we're going to hit submit query. And there you go. It looks like we did get the flag for Natas 7. And you can see here, access granted, the password for Natas 7 is yada yada. You're looking at that source code we were looking at earlier. Access granted, the password for Natas 7 is yada yada, right? So good sign. We're just going to go ahead and copy that value. And we're going to replace that 6 in the URL with 7. We're going to type in Natas 7 for the username. We're going to paste in that password. I probably screwed that up somehow. Or excuse me, Natas. Yeah, Natas 7. I am doing it right. I copy a bad password. There we go. All right, so now we're on Natas 7. We're at about 14 minutes for the video. I figured let's just keep going. Let's see what else we can find. I am curious to see how it works out from a viewership kind of standpoint, if people prefer one level per video or, a couple levels per video. So let's just jump into this and see what we can figure out. So we do have a very, very basic menu. We're just going to hit view page source. You can see here index PHP, rotation, or question mark, and it's pointing at a page with home and about. And then it's saying hint, password for web user Natas8 is in Etsy Natas _ webpass Natas8, right? So let's just go ahead and copy that for now. We'll jump back over, and of course we can do the same thing again. We can do /robots.txt. Nothing there. We can use the developer tool. We can hit that network. We can reload, right? We can look at the request. We can use Burp Suite, right, to review this stuff as well and see kind of what's happening. There's all sorts of things we can do in our review that I've been showing you. You can definitely do one in either or. But let's see what happens if we just close this developer tool, and we're just going to add that path that we found, right? The Etsy Natas _ webpass Natas8, and let's just go ahead and hit enter. Not found. So let's just not assume it's all wrong. So we're just going to remove Natas8. So now it's just going to be Etsy Natas _ webpass. Again, not found. Go ahead and just try Etsy and see what happens. Again, nothing. So everything you saw me doing, we can actually do in Burp as well. So I'm just going to jump over to Burp because I want to show you guys both and why I like Burp so much for the workflow. So I have Burp pulled up. Right, you can see here, if I wanted to, this is just that get. I could come right here. I could drop it in. Or excuse me, I can right click in here, and then I can send a repeater. The repeater just lets me play around with it more and more since I did not allow the intercept to catch it. And right, we can do the same thing right here. Hit send, I can look at the response, nothing. I can remove that Natas8. Hit send, nothing, right? So on and so forth. We do get some information about Apache 2.4.58. I'm not sure if it's vulnerable, but if you were actually doing a penetration test, you could check this to see if there's a vulnerability associated with that, right? What I really want to show is you can do the exact same thing you just saw me do on the web page as you can in Burp. I just like Burp as a clear view, and it speeds up my workflow. So we'll jump back over to Firefox. We'll just close out these tabs for now. We are back on Natas 7. We have that home and about option. I can click home. And this gets interesting. It is now pointing at home for page equals. So this opens up the potential for either RFI and LFI, right? A remote file inclusion, local file inclusion, a couple different vulnerabilities that I'm probably not thinking of just off the top of my head. But let's just look at the page. We can do the same thing. Remember, repeat your workflow. We can hit that about, same thing too, repeat that workflow. This is where it gets interesting. So let's just replace that about and let's just see if there's a local file inclusion. I'm going to drop that path there. I'm just going to hit enter. And right off the bat, there you have it. It is a local file inclusion. We are able to get the credentials. So again, I'm going to jump over to Burp and I'm going to show you the exact same thing on Burp. So we don't really need to use this one anymore. We do want to jump back over to Target. And you can see here on that URL, it's pointing at the about or the home. So we're just going to go ahead and select one of those, right click, send a repeater. We'll jump over to repeater. We're going to replace that about, and we're going to paste that path right in there, and we'll hit send. Give it a second to load, and there you have it. We got the flag right there. So let's just make sure that it actually works. Let's see if we can make it over to Natas 8, and this is not a false flag. So we're just going to replace that 7 with 8. And since we do have the intercept turned off, excuse me, we also want to remove the rest of this path. And then we're just going to hit enter. Give it a second to load. Username is going to be Natas8, and we'll paste in that credential pair we just found. And there you go. We are now on Natas level 8. So we're just at about 20 minutes here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it to a close because with the intro and everything, it's going to come to about 25 minutes. But thanks for joining me on Exploit Security. On the next video, we are going to pick it up on Natas 8. If you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions, if you have any video ideas you want to see, maybe where we just do a deep dive into Burp Suite, please let me know in the comments section below. Other than that, thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one.